there's a certain level of wealth and accumulation that is unearned, right? You can't earn $1 billion.
That's right.
You just can't earn that.
That's exactly correct.
You can get market power, you can break rules, you can do all sorts of things. You can abuse labor laws.
Yep.
You can pay people less than what they're worth.
Yep.
But you can't earn that, right?
That's
and
right.
so you have to create a myth that since you didn't earn that, you have to create a myth of earning it.
Welcome to the Everything Is podcast. I am your host, CT Chitty Bang, and I'm here with my tag team partner. Wait, hold on. He's typically right over here, but on day 4 pods in, I'm left holding the bag. I'm alone. But nah, we're gonna have a good pod today. Chris is out having he's at a concert for Currency. More power to him. Shout out to Ivy for hooking him up for their anniversary. So yeah, let him get his time because he earned it, man. He definitely deserves it. But today we're gonna have a great pod. I think I want to tackle what Miss AOC was talking about in the intro today. It might not be the longest pod, but we're gonna go ahead and tackle some levels of what we call income inequality in this country. I hope and pray to God that I am actually online, and live. So I'm going to check in a second. So bear with me. But yeah, we're going to talk about wealth inequality because, as she says, I think a misconception is that like a lot of people think that the more money you earn means the harder you work to get it. And you came up with something that other people didn't, or you had this crazy idea and you should deserve more money than the rest of the people because you provided this great thing to the world. And yes, some of that is true. Like, if you come up with something like Google, Facebook, Amazon, you deserve some credit. And you should deserve to be, royally compensated for that, for sure. But to the degrees of where things are in this country, where they've been and where they're continuing to go when it comes to wealth inequality in this country, it is kind of getting out of control, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion. So there's a couple of things I want to share with you, but before we continue, let me just check my Twitch, make sure that we're good to go, that we're GTG, because I don't want to be talking for no goddamn reason. All right, here we are. We on Twitch. Boom. Let me check my YouTube because I'm gonna make sure that that's live as well. If it's not, we're gonna have to work on it. All right, we good. We good to go. We GTG. All right. So, first, I want to take us to a CNN, show. I'm not sure the name of the show, but it's Abby Phillips' show where they debate topics on CNN. And I'm sure, if you haven't seen it, you'll see it tonight. But a lot of people have been seeing viral clips from it where people are kind of, going at it based on the war going on, about all types of stuff with ICE. Any topic under the political atmosphere, under the political sun, they debated on this pod. So let me bring that up right now. Right now. 1 second. Oh, yeah. Check this out. There you go.
World continues to grow into a chasm. According to a new study, the pay of America's CEOs rose 20 times faster than workers in 2025. And while the average global CEO pocketed $8.4 million in pay and bonuses last year, it would take the average global worker 490 years to earn the same amount. Adjusted for inflation, global worker pay fell 12%, while real CEO pay surged 54% between 2019 and 2025. But as CEOs use their increasingly,
I want to stop right here real quick. Look at this for a second. Real wages, 2019 to 2025. Global workers have made 12% less in that span. This is across the globe. Global CEOs have doubled, more than doubled their money and their earnings. And this is given to us by the International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC. This is one of the most credible sources. And trust me, I do my homework. I look this stuff up. But basically, this is it serves as the world's only database documenting violations of international recognized labor rights. So this is the world's only database that's documenting violations of labor across the globe. And according to them, billionaires over the course of, what is this, 2019 to 2005, what is that, 6 years, have doubled how much money they're making. And globally, the workers have gone down 12%. And we all know that's due to, like, a lot due to what's going on here in America, along with Canada, Europe, a lot of these, Russia, a lot of these big superpowers where these billionaires are coming from, right? And when we see these numbers, some people are okay with that. Like, I don't get how you can see these numbers and just move on. Like, this is how life should be. Like, this is perfect, right? This is how it should be. Like, there should be nothing done to change this. But lo and behold, there are some people that will defend this shit. Let's continue with the video.
Between 2019 and 2025. But as CEOs use their increasingly growing power to undermine workers' rights, one of them is defending that $9 latte that you had the other day.
What we're seeing is people, they want to have a special experience. And regardless of what your income level is, in some cases, a $9 experience does feel like you're splurging. And then what that means is we have to make it worthwhile, right? And then in other cases, people believe, well, this is a really affordable premium experience because they're saying, like, well, it's less than $10.
So let me ask y'all for 1 second. Let me ask y'all real quick. How much do y'all love Starbucks? Is it really this, like, crazy experience when you take a sip from a coffee that's from Starbucks versus mom and pop shops versus, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts? Is it that, Tim Hortons, is it that much different that it should be $9 fucking dollars? $9. They're going to sit here and they're going to tell you that this is logical. They're going to sit here and tell you that they offer this special, thing that no one else is doing, right? That makes it worth it, So if you want a good experience, come to our Starbucks, our million Starbuckses, Not telling y'all how, well, you know what? Before I get into that, I gotta talk about some guy, and tonight I will be putting somebody on the Summer Jam screen because he grinds my gears, man. Hey, I'm sorry, my boy Chris, he's a military vet. He's a Marine. This guy is also a Marine, but his takes on these panels on CNN just are they make no sense in a sense of, like, if you were trying to make society a better place, right? And then you dive deeper into the guy's history and you kind of figure out, oh, that's why. So let me go ahead and bring up a clip. It's the same video, but my man, come on down to the Summer Jam screen. My man, what's his name? Timmy. What's his fucking name, man? Before I fuck this up, man. My man. Let me find his name real quick. Tim Parrish. Yes. Tim Parrish. Listen to this real quick. Oh, hold up. Maybe y'all can't see it yet. 1 second. Watch this. All right.
provide for their families, that part.
Abby, I'll take a different approach to that because I believe that we live in the greatest country on the face of the planet.
Look at this milk dud of a man, Tim Parrish. This is the guy. Look at this guy. And listen to what his logic is when it comes to this statement that the Starbucks CEO is defending $9 coffees as a special experience. Listen.
There's unlimited opportunity here for anybody who's willing to work hard and go after it. If you're upset about this and how much your CEO makes, go launch your own Starbucks. Go launch your own company. Go
not that
create
easy.
Competition. Of course, it's not that easy, but like it's never that easy to start a company or something. So anyone in this country, like I said, who's willing to work hard and apply themselves, go become Starbucks competition and sell $7 premium experiences and undercut your competition. I don't think that I wouldn't complain. I would just say, if I don't like it, I'll go start my own thing.
I think. Go ahead.
Can I ask you a question?
I prefer if Abby asks the questions, but sure, you can ask the question.
I mean,
He prefers if Abby
it's
has a
okay, we
question
can talk
'cause
to each other.
You don't want to hear shit. All right, listen. This guy, Tim Parrish. Let me tell you a little about this guy. Listen, he's a Marine. I respect that, and thank you for your service. But Timmy's a different type of cat. Timmy's parents had a real good marriage, and he's the type of dude who Republicans and conservatives, they pay to go out there and spew their propaganda. A lot of his statements don't really bring much into context. As you guys see, he's like, you should be able to, hey, if you want to compete, make your own coffee shop, and like it's that simple, and make your own coffee shop, and you undercut the competition, make it $7 for your coffee, and he thinks this is logical, or maybe he doesn't think this is logical. Maybe he knows that no matter what, he has to defend the corporations. And why is that? Tim Parrish sits on the seat. He serves as the Virginia State Director for Americans for Prosperity. Americans for Prosperity. And what is Americans for Prosperity, or AFP? What is that? It's a major conservative advocacy group, and it's historically funded and directed by Charles Koch and the late David Koch. Well, it's spelled C-O-C. It's spelled K-O-C-H. So I'm just gonna call them Charles Koch and David Koch because these guys are dicks. When you look into this thing, when you look into what these guys have lobbied for, it's all bad for the middle class. It's all bad for labor unions. It's all bad for workers at large. And then they'll paint it and make it seem like it's something that is good for the working class. Meanwhile, they're racking in billions. So yeah, he works for these guys who. Let me tell you a little bit about the Koch brothers. Let me tell you a little about them. So the Koch brothers, they made their wealth in oil. They have a net. Well, David has passed, rest in peace. But Charles is still alive, and he has a net worth estimate of $71 billion. And they fund the AFP, the Americans for Prosperity organization. And yeah, he started with $21 million and in an inherited oil refining business. So this is what you're competing against if you want to make, compete with people. These guys who are in that, inherited wealth. And he took that from 21 million to $125 billion company. His net wealth right now is 71 billion. That's just Charles Koch. And this guy, Tim Parrish, the milk that you see on the screen over there on the right-hand side, he's the vice president for the Virginia State Director. He's a Virginia State Director for the AFP, excuse me. So when you look into that, it starts to then, be clear why he says the things he does, So I looked into it. And I'm like, okay, what does the AFP do? Maybe I'm being too harsh, You know, what have they advocated for? You know, and it turns out that they advocated for, dun da da da, of course, opposition to unions. They oppose unions. They have championed the right to work and successfully lobbied to limit collective bargaining rights for the public sector. For the public sector. So these guys are, he's the vice president of an organization that are union busters, right? Not only that, they are a network that consistently has opposed raising the federal minimum wage. Consistently. Since inception. So this guy who's telling you to start your own business and compete with Starbucks also wants people who are working at Starbucks to have lower wages and never get that minimum wage raised. While his bosses essentially are $71 billion up. And the AFP also lobbied against mandates for paid sick leave and workplace safety regulations. So, like OSHA and all that, they argued that these create job killing costs. Man, I'm 15 minutes into this, bro, and I I don't know. I could go on forever, bro. At like with what they have done to harm labor costs, and that's just a little bit tidbit. You guys can do your research on the AFP, but this guy is the vice president for that organization. So when he comes out there spewing that you can just, start your own coffee shop, recognize who he's getting paid by. So, and how much is he getting paid? Let me let y'all know how much Tim Parrish is getting paid. All right. So, as state director, Parrish is part of a high-level executive structure. While his specific salary isn't public, comparable state director roles at AFP are estimated to range 127,000 to 223,000 annually. This guy is making over 10 G's a month, well over 10 G's a month, doing that. Then he's talking gigs on CNN, gets paid a little extra cash to come out here and spew propaganda. That's what his business model is at the moment. So know who you're talking about, know who you're talking to, and who they're getting paid by. So listen, man, I told y'all, ladies and gentlemen, you're gonna be brought to class tonight. So yeah, that's who Tim Parrish is. But the logic, let's hold up, get him off screen for a second. Let's say we completely ignore Tim Parrish's arguments, ignore that he's part of the AFP. Let's say we completely ignore that he's part of the AFP. His logic is, we're in the greatest country in the world, and you should be able to, if you don't like a job, get another job. If you don't like, paying $9 coffees, start your own coffee company, right? Well, here's what you're up against. You're up against $1 billion corporation in Starbucks. And real quick, let me see if I can share my screen 1 second. My bad. My mic was off for a second. You know what? Let me just bring it up over here. Let me just tell y'all. So essentially, Starbucks uses this tactic called cluster bombing. Starbucks has been known to saturate a small area with multiple locations, even if some stores intentionally operate at a loss. This clustering strategy is designed to outnumber and eventually drain the customer base of nearby independent coffee shops. So essentially, they're willing to take a loss because they have so much money. When we talk about billions, man, billions, you can throw that around. They are literally feeding families to destroy other families. They're feeding families minimum wage work, the lowest they can to destroy other families and their businesses. So I just wanted to put that in perspective when people say something as simple as, why can't you just start your own thing, pull yourself up by your bootstraps? I want to put into context what people are up against today. So like as your wages continue to decrease, so you have the capital and income to potentially own your own home, own your own car, and then much less start your own business to compete against these guys. Their CEOs are getting 50 times more money, and they're getting billions of dollars added to their revenue and added to their profit margins, and they have so much money that the Starbucks in your city can put a Starbucks at the mall down the street from you. They could put it at the Target in your neighborhood, and then across the street from the Target, so that the mom and pop shop 5 blocks down, there's no real incentive to even go there. That's what cluster bombing is. And they're operating with those three shops. They're willing to collectively, those three shops, be operating at a loss. At a loss. And then they'll blame the people working there that they're at a loss, even though they're cluster bombing it. And just to weed out the mom and pop shop or Dunkin' Donuts. And they'll do that like everywhere. They've done it to even box out Dunkin' Donuts. They've gotten different licenses and exclusivity rights to different malls, different locations like Target, and different places in the city where a Dunkin' Donuts can't even be buy property nearby. So yeah, so the company has so much money it could pretty much self-cannibalize itself in the efforts of making sure there's no competition. And this is the type of stuff that this gentleman, Tim Parrish, completely ignores. Completely ignores when he talks about starting a business in the United States. And part of the reason why I kind of don't like these, like, sorry, give me some water, these CNN debates, because it lacks, let me get this one actually, it lacks some context. Sometimes they only get like a couple of minutes to talk. You get some crazy guy who has propaganda points. He gets to say whatever he wants, and then they got to move on quick to the next thing. So a guy could say, Trump is great for the economy, and CEOs are, these look at the Dow Jones. It's rising, and even though you're starving and you can't buy gas, you can't pay your rent, they'll say the Dow Jones is doing great, and then we just gotta move on because we're in a debate and we got ad time. We gotta get on CNN. So that's one thing that I kind of find interesting with these debates, that really it cheapens the real spirit of debate, because people just get to spew things, dig their feet in the sand, and essentially just keep spewing propaganda until it's time for a commercial. It's silly. No? It's silly. But these are taxes that Starbucks uses. When he talks about that, it's we don't get somebody to rebut what he is saying in those moments. We don't get people to say, "Hey, man, Starbucks cluster bombs," and they are willing to take a loss because they make so much money, because there's billions in the company, that they can do that. And it's not just Starbucks. We got to recognize this. This is across many industries. You cannot talk about people pulling themselves up by the bootstraps and starting their own business when you can't get a loan, when you can't fix your credit because you don't have the income to do that. you can't even get a job to get the income to eventually save and do the things you want to do to start a business. It's asinine. And one thing I want him to also know is that like not everybody in America can start their own business or just move to another job. It's just not realistic for everybody. Everybody's not going to be a boss and owner. But just because you're not owning something or building a company or building a business does not mean you don't deserve a life of dignity. And I think that gets lost in these conversations and the propaganda they spew. But we all know why, now that I put him on the summary on the screen, why he is saying the things he's saying. He's paid by the AFP as a vice president to be a black milk dud of a man to come on CNN and spew propaganda and collectively get the community to think that he's doing something in their favor while the AFP busts unions and continually, destroy any avenue for, minimum wage to increase or for the rights of labor to advance. And it goes to what AOC was saying in the intro. You can't get $1 billion. You don't earn $1 billion. You kind of exploit people and you undercut to get $1 billion. And when you understand that logic of that's how the system works, that's how capitalism works, then we can understand, okay, this is how we solve these issues. This is how we make things better for everybody, What we're talking about right now is income inequality. Shout out to my boy Chris. He's over here in the chat. But we're talking about income inequality. We're talking about the AFP, which this guy, Tim Parrish, milk dud of a man, is vice president of, and I disclosed it. I put him on the Summer Jam screen, and we talked about his ass already, but I'm going to bring him back up for you, my friend. And there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more that I want to show y'all that y'all haven't seen yet. So check that out. Let me see it. Before we let me see. I have a paper here. So let's just watch what he has to say.
I mean, do you think that it's insane to say that Starbucks should raise their wages for their workers? Is that insane to say as a concept?
I think that I believe in free markets, and if a private company sets their wages what they are, then that's what they are. And if you don't like the wage,
You support the minimum wage?
if you don't like the wage, don't go work there.
You support
I've
minimum
applied for
wage?
hundreds of jobs where they didn't meet my minimum I wanted to make, and I didn't go work there. And it was as simple as that.
You also don't have the affordability, or you have the affordability, most likely, to say no to some things.
Sure.
Some people have to take jobs that don't pay the living wage to keep up with rising inflation. And they are in these positions. And I think to Abby's point, what you're seeing is workers at these companies are just not getting paid for what they should be. And then you see these CEOs getting these extravagant, enormous bonuses. And that is the choice of the company.
Right, it's
but
the
I
choice
think
of
there
the company.
has to be some type of conversation that we have of raising the federal minimum wage and seeing and giving workers more benefits
I appreciate
so that they
that.
can be competitive in the market.
You know what? I wish I had a freaking soundboard to give a round of applause for Sabrina Singh, because she hit the nail on the head, man. Like, some people don't have the options. I just said that a second ago. Some people don't have the options of just saying, yeah, I'm just going to leave this job. Yes, I'm just going to start my own business. They don't have the capital to do that. And it's a reality. It's not saying that you can just, these people are any less than the people who are CEOs. And that, the private market, they make their decisions and, they can get bonuses if they want. That's a frivolous way of thinking. That's very selfish, it's capitalistic, it's predatory, because at some point we have to recognize that Americans are not just the rich Americans. Americans are not just the people who have money. Americans are people who make less money than you do. They're also included in what we call America. And how do we improve that? Meanwhile, this guy, this milk dud of a man, Tim Parrish, he is advocating for a lower minimum wage. Like he's the vice president of the AFP, Americans for I'll keep forgetting it, but America for, let me pull it up again. It's not even, yeah. Americans for Prosperity. And their version of prosperity is not the version of prosperity for every American. And that's the issue here. Their version of prosperity is the bottom dollar of these organizations. He works for an oil giant, man. He gets paid over six figures to spew propaganda, and he willingly does it. And he stands by for an organization that has been busting unions, that has been advocating for a lower federal minimum wage or not raising the federal minimum wage. And then he wants to go on CNN and tell y'all, hey, go start a business and compete with Starbucks. Come on, you can do it. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Then he wants to tell you, oh yeah, you can just, if you don't like the wage, just get another job. When we all know the unemployment rate is skyrocketed. It's like, what world is this guy living in? So when it comes to, the narratives he's spewing, it's all propaganda, bro. And when you look into the guy, you find out why. And that's where I feel like we need more transparency in who we see on TV, who these characters are that come out here and spew all this type of nonsense, and see, and you get to see why and who they stand for and who they work for. He works for Charles Koch because that dickhead was always for busting unions, which is the primary reason why the wage gap is so vast in America. But yeah, we'll go ahead and bring him in a little bit more because it's time to see the boy get roasted. Time to see the boy get roasted like a freaking, or melted, I should say. I'm gonna fast forward on the clip to, let me see, it's like 9:45. Let me check this out. And this is where it gets real nasty. His mindset right here, and you get to really see who this guy is. And shout out to Isaiah Martin, former U.S. congressional candidate. This dude right here, Isaiah Martin. I've been watching him online. He's been cooking Trump supporters, cooking them on his show. He debates them on his platform. Don't agree with all his politics. I think he seems more like a corporate Democrat, in my opinion. But I support him cooking and using some logic when it comes to debating these Trump supporters and these crazy corporate lobbyists and propagandists. But yeah, check this out.
The idea that we should just continue business as normal is just simply not working. We know that we had 1.1 million layoffs just last year alone. That's the highest number since when Trump was last president in 2020. And then even before that, the biggest number since the Great Recession. So at the reality that we stand today, I think instead of spending $400 million on a Qatari plane and all these other things that Trump is spending money on, let's put money towards universal child care so that someone like your mom does not have to go and work 2 and 3 jobs to go and provide for her children.
Well, my mom's a hardworking woman. She would work
to have to do that
anyway.
Well, she shouldn't have to do that.
We come from a long line of
Well, you know what?
people
Maybe
for the
you
hard
think that should be something that should be done. I don't think that it should. I think our
that's your-
tax dollars should be spent better, and Republicans are not
Well,
spending
that's
it in
your
the way that
opinion.
needs
My
to be
point
happening.
is simply this: if you want more, you go work for it, and that's been a landmark thing in this country for ages. So
All right,
it's not
we
one
do
of
have to
get
leave it
everything.
there.
Why should they get on? And the workers who make the company go, why do they get it in the neck?
look, that your boss makes. Well, I think you're retired now, but your boss makes.
Listen, man. Earlier in the conversation, he was talking about his mom and how she used to work. I think it was right after we talked after you talked with my girl Sabrina. But talked about his mom, and he's like, yeah, she worked 3 jobs, and he's like, yeah, that's what you do, and he's over here advocating for an elderly woman like his mom to work 3 jobs. And he got Isaiah, to his credit, like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that she should have to do that. And I think that he said something that's poignant. He said, that's what we've been doing it for ages. And that's the conservative mindset that I think needs to be kind of enlightened, because it's kind of like they think America is a static thing. Like the democracy is a static thing. It doesn't change. Nothing changes over time, as if, you know, technology hasn't moved at an incredible rate, as you know, our rights as human beings in this country has hasn't always been what it is today, you know. And if it if we used to like have slaves and discrimination and all that stuff had to be fought against with the civil rights era, what makes you think that when it comes to, and forget about that even, forget about, just let's talk about the business stuff, monopolies. We were trying to get, you know, we broke up monopolies once upon a time in this country. These are things that are, we've always changed as a country over time, because and got better for the majority of us, got better so that we can have a more just society that wasn't working for everybody. And his logic, his mindset is essentially nothing needs to change. Like, it's just the way America has worked. And apparently it works for him, because he's working as vice president for the America for Prosperity conservative think tank, you know? And that's the sad part. Like, he's willing to sell out, and because he thinks that America should stay stagnant, not raise federal minimum wage, keep busting unions, completely, totally sucking up to the freaking free market and all that stuff. You use that language to say that you got a chance while skewing the game completely against you, you know? And he knows that, because he's part of the people that do that. And that's what makes it so insidious. So insidious so much that he's willing to use his mom working 3 jobs as a propaganda piece to to bolster his propaganda that you should just work hard and eventually you'll make it.
Workers at these companies are just not getting paid for what they should be. And then you see these CEOs getting these extravagant, enormous bonuses.
Worked 3 jobs when we were
Giving workers more benefits
I appreciate
so that they
that.
can be competitive in the
I
marketplace.
appreciate that. My
So-
mother worked 3 jobs when we were coming up. And
Right.
and if something didn't pay more, she would either go get another job, or she would work hard to achieve so she could go make more money.
But
it's not as simple as
it's not really about the math.
just telling a CEO what they can do with their
But
business.
but it's not really about the math and the economics. It's about values, right? So not long ago, the guys, and they were all guys who ran big American companies, GM, Ford, Sears, those things. They paid themselves about 20 to 30 times the wage of the average worker. Today, that's 300 to 400 times. Japan doesn't do that. Germany doesn't do that. The UK doesn't do that. America does that, because the values shifted from what's best for the company to how do I drive the stock price up and get as much of that as I can. And the notion that so much of it is going to so few people is one of the reasons we got Trump.
And I'm going to
And I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna leave it right there, man. I think he's hit the nail on the head right there. We saw the stats at the beginning. CEOs over the past 6 years have made over 50% more than they did 6 years ago, while workers lost money, 12% less than they were making in 2019. Those numbers they don't lie. And then you bring into the fold the civil unrest that's starting to bubble up. The whole thing with Luigi Mangione, people burning down warehouses. The people are frustrated. And if you keep going this direction, the pitchforks come out. And it comes to a point where, let me go back, because there was something that Abby said that I thought was crazy to me. I'm not sure if it's here. Let me see this. One second, guys. In the midst of this conversation, he got $400 million. Trump, $400 million for a jet. Trump's Qatari gifted Air Force One will keep its luxurious royal interior. The Air Force says $400 million to modify the plane went to security measures, not aesthetics. Okay, 400 million just for security. Meanwhile, people are, struggling. But there was a stat that I can't find right now, but I'm not sure if it's here. Basically, what Abby was saying, I don't have the clip right now with me, but she said that people, when they polled, like, I forget how many people, but a lot of people, and they said um, people are they're more worried about losing all their money, like going broke, than dying. Like they're more worried about their finances than potentially dying. And that means people are willing to work themselves to death. It's sad. Also, that means that people are less worried about dying and might do some radical shit in case things don't, unless things change. So I'm not saying anything should happen crazy, but I'm just saying look out. If things don't get turned around, the American working class is not going to just, become a. I mean, to be quite honest, if you ask me, we're low key already like indentured servants, or like one step above slavery, because we get paid very poorly compared to what our masters, these billionaire CEOs, make. And it's so absorbent that it might be equivalent to what slavery is. Slavery was. Only difference is they don't own us, they don't beat us, they don't abuse us. But then again, technically, how you define abuse? This is might be financial abuse. Telling people to get out there, work all day, all night, get a second job. My co-host Chris, he's working Walmart, and they had mandatory overtime. Stuff like that is happening in this world. So when you look at mandatory overtime, if you don't do it, you lose your job. That means you can't pay your family. That means we own you in a sense. So I know it's a bit of a hyperbolic way of looking at things, but to me it's not that far fetched to look at the gap as being a level of real control over the populace when it comes to these corporations, these companies, and these top CEOs making a ton of money. And I'm just saying, just beware of it, because people are going to get upset. People are already upset. So when people get upset, they do, desperate times, they say call for desperate measures. So I just hope that love prevails first and humanity is taken into account, and the humanity of all people, working class people, and particularly the poor people, particularly people who are, you know, less fortunate. Um, we don't even get to talking about people who are, disabled or handicapped, or, how we can take care of, our youth. Man, how can we do that if we put our people who are trying their best, who have every facility in them to work hard? How do we harm them in being the people who are the heart of this country, the working class, really? They're the people that your doctors, your nurses, your firefighters, your police officers, your grocery store workers, people who, at your gas workers, like people who are making your day to day, your post office workers, making the day, run. People who work at freaking Spectrum Mobile or whatever your internet service, your cable companies. People are going in there making like $20 an hour, 25, some even less, 17, and really trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent. Like if they're not able to get ahead, how are they going to make the best decisions for the people who are less fortunate, disabled, children, the youth? It's a domino effect. It's a domino effect. So I really thought this was something I want to talk about today and really nail home because it does um, grind my gears that niggas like Tim Parrish go out there and get to spew this propaganda and be unchecked, completely unchecked. You know? Let me see. Do I got anything else for you? This ain't gonna be a long show today because I think we'll be back tomorrow with more, maybe a more lighthearted show. It's Friday, Let's have some fun. We'll probably talk about some Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, their return, and dissect their performance. And maybe talk about the AI conversation that we weren't able to get to today. Because I don't want to have that conversation without Chris here, because it's a little deeper than, yeah, it could get a little deep. I want somebody to push back on my ideas when it comes to the AI situation. Listen, we use AI. We use AI. But the cost of it, bro, we got to be aware of it. We got to be aware of what the cost is of AI and where things are going with AI. So, yeah, tomorrow's show, we will probably, I know that I want to talk about the Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith return tomorrow at 10 p.m. on First Take and see how it goes. And then, yeah, we'll talk about some AI stuff, man. It's going to be, I've been doing this for maybe an hour. Is there anything else I want to share? You know what? Let's put somebody else on the Summer Jam screen. Let me see. Let me see. Somebody that I was thinking about, but I'm like, nah, let me not. Or should I save this? You know what? Let's look at this like it's a post-credit Marvel scene, all right? I'll get into this guy again on another day. But I just wanted to share this with y'all real quick. This guy, to me, is a douchebag. Bill Maher. Listen to the bullshit he's saying here. I'm sorry, but like, isn't that his job to know these terms? I looked into him too, man. He makes $10 million a year just for the show that he's on, Real Time with Bill Maher. And he's not that funny. And people laugh, like people fake laugh at his jokes. They- Then look it up. Just look it up. Now he's Look at this nigga fake laughing. All right. All right. Listen, man. That's just a taste of who I'm gonna talk about, but I'll get to them probably next week. Honestly, one second. Oh, hold on. It's Chris. What's up, man? You're on the you're on the you're on the air live. You're on the Okay. I had a feeling that was why you were calling too. Okay. All right, bet. See, this is why this is even when he's not here, he's still a tag team partner. Listen, that's why I fuck with him. Yeah. See. Listen, man. But did you hear the other videos? So you heard it. Okay, you did see that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. Exactly, exactly. So, and we'll definitely get into. I'm gonna replay the Bill Maher clip, so that the you and the fans could hear this. I'm about to close the show in a little bit because I want to save stuff for later. I've been doing this for almost an hour now, and I think I kind of just like emptied the clip on this nigga. So, so I'm like, do I need another body in Bill Maher right now? Should I go there right now? But yeah, yeah. No, you're calling into your own show. Yeah, you are. You are calling it. That you're definitely calling. But yeah, yeah, man. But yeah, thanks for the call, caller number 105. Nah, once you want before I even picked up, I knew all the audio off. I knew it. Yeah, I was like, oh, the audio. I was already looking at. I was like, oh, there it is. Yeah, I did because when I switch share screens, I gotta do that thing again, unfortunately. But yeah, man. About to wrap this up. But yeah, we're gonna do this Bill Maher clip and then we'll probably take it home. All right, peace. There you go. Cameo from Chris, the Most High. Um, Shout out to him. So let's get the Bill Maher clip going now that we can hear it. Chris, if you're still in the chat, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it on that end. But this is about Bill Maher being an ignoramus. Oh shit! One second. It's I didn't share the audio of this. Come on, man. What the hell? Let me go back to this. Mm, you know what? Tactical difficulties, guys. The Lord doesn't want me to roast Bill Maher. The Lord does not want me to roast Bill Maher tonight. Listen, man. He spared him. sure. I mean, honestly, honestly, the guy's like 70 years old. The fact that he doesn't want to learn anything new is fine with me. But you know what? I want to give you out of context what this nigga said. I want to give you out. I really do want to give you out of context what this guy said. So there he is. Let me try this one more again. One more again.
A couple of
Here
weeks
we go.
ago on our overtime
There
segment,
we go.
one of my guests used the term the Overton window, which up until a year ago I had heard only once every never. But lately I hear it everywhere.
The Overton window.
The Overton window.
The Overton window.
The Overton window.
Overton window.
The 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 Overton window.
Sorry, but I just couldn't hold my tongue anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the Overton window has opened up, about.
I don't know what that is, and I don't want to know what that is. Don't tell me. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't kidding. This isn't a bit. I really don't know what the Overton window is, and I really don't want to know. So don't tell me.
Listen.
It may be the only thing that's still on my bucket list. I want to die not knowing what the Overton window is.
Look at these people fake laughing.
Now,
Listen, listen. The guy's a comedian, but he's lost his fastball. Let's be real. He's 70 years old. He doesn't want to learn anything new. I don't blame him. Let's be real. I don't blame him. But what the Overton window is for y'all. I mean, no, before we get into the Overton window, let's be real. This guy's getting paid $10 million a year to host this show on HBO. For who? But he's supposed to be informing, right? Informing people. That's the purpose of the show, I assume, right? And be informed. But his smug ass is double doubting on ignorance. And the reason why this bothers me so much is that I think we're in a time where of the where people don't know what's true, what's fake, what and all stuff, and people are willfully being ignorant now. And for a guy who's on a public platform like his, who's been doing this this guy's been doing this since the 90s. With before he had Real Time with Bill Maher, he had what was that show on NBC? Politically Incorrect or something like that. He's been a political jackass for years, but at least you have people on your show who gives you information. The guy brought up Overton window, and he shut it down. And then he said he didn't want to know live on air in front of everybody, and people laughed. I think this is terrible. It's a terrible example to set. It's a terrible way to make a joke, because the reason why I don't like it so much is because he consistently is stubborn on his views and is not willing to hear other people out. He's so focused on making bad jokes that he doesn't hear where the other side of the coin is. He has been getting killed. That's why Dave Chappelle called him out too, because he's become a caricature of his former self, where he might have a clever jab here and there. None of these jokes are funny, and it seems like he's surrounded by yes men that just gotta laugh at his shit. And his guests are faking laughs because they want to be on the show to boost their credibility as well, boost their star power. But how relevant is this show anyways? I don't know, because I don't watch it, but I did see this clip, and I thought that it was an example of even people who we looked at in the past as having some level of credibility, some level of wit, some courage, of criticizing different sides of the aisle, both sides of the aisle, are willfully now advertising willful ignorance. So if you don't want to learn anything, Bill Maher, retire. Retire. The world doesn't need you spewing ignorance and then doubling down and saying, yeah, I like being ignorant. These people give that $10 million to another host to do a real-time show with Trevor Noah or something who knows what the Overton window is and are willing to understand it or inform their audience if they don't understand it. That's what we need. We don't need you making a whole segment as a 70-year-old man saying, I want to be ignorant. Now, granted, are people overusing the term? Probably. Probably overusing the term to sound, highbrow or whatever it means, because I didn't know what it was either until like a week ago. But let's get into that real quick. Overton window. All right, so the term was coined by a libertarian, and a libertarian named, well, he didn't coin it per se, but it's named after him. His name is Joseph Overton. He had a think tank in Michigan, and he always talked about different radical ideas that weren't accepted. But the more and more you talk about it, it becomes more acceptable as time goes on. The window opens up for these radical ideas to become more accepted. So here's me, I like my analogies so that people can understand in a very, simple way what the Overton window is. So let's say that you have a window. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Let's say that you have a thermostat, right? Excuse me, you have a thermostat, and the range of temperatures that are acceptable in your house are 68 to a 72. And everybody in your house or your office agrees that's what's comfortable. Now, if your mom or your dad or a manager comes into the house and they set the dial to 70, they're acting within the window of what's acceptable, right? Now, there's always a shift over time with people, and this goes with society at large. And if the group of employees at a office or the people in the house are saying that the office is freezing and they really want to turn it up to like 80 degrees, oh, that's a radical idea. 80 is way too high, right? But they might eventually convince people that 75 degrees is actually the new normal because they wanted it to go to 80. So that's what the window exemplifies. Excuse me. The window is shifted, and the manager can now set the higher dial without everyone complaining. So whoever's in charge can now set it to 75, even though previously it was 68 to 72 degrees that was acceptable. Now 75 is the standard, right? And that's what happens with different political philosophies when it comes to, smoking marijuana, when it comes to gay wedding, gay marriage, So over time, those things were so crazy to be accepted in society. Over time, things changes, and the Overton window opens up, and it's accepted now. Criticizing Israel right now, the Overton window seems to be more, open for that, and pulling out of these wars and having America be first is kind of like the norm, rather than back in the day, people still do it, but make excuses for why it was so necessary to be so interventionist in the Middle East. So I think it's important for people to be educated and to know these terms, just so when people bring it up now, as the Overton window of our vernacular changes, you need to have an idea and be wise to it when people say these things. At least you know what you're talking about. At least you know what it is. And me, I'm not the smartest guy in the book. I didn't know what it was a week ago, but I was able to look it up because I'm not ignorant. I mean, I was ignorant until I wasn't, because I'm not going to sit here and I'm not 70-year-old saying I don't want to learn, So, Bill Maher, I got more smoke for you in the future, but today that's all I got for you. And everybody, that's all I got for you today for our show. I wanted to go a little bit longer, but I think we want to wait till tomorrow for some of the other topics I got. So, as I always say, keep love first. All is love. Everything is everything. And we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace out.